Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, here to Sports Time HQ. I am your host, Fernando. Joining me today is my great co-host, Gary. Gary, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. We had an eventful past, I don't know, let's say 5 hours or so of just NFL news. So we got a lot to talk about.
It was just wild, back and forth, back and forth. Like, obviously, you guys are, I'm ahead of you guys, but I mean, it just was absolutely nuts to see how crazy it was the whole day. And obviously, the day's not even over. For you guys, what, at 6 p.m.? So you
Yep.
guys still have more chances. But the reason why for this is because we are 1 week away from the official March 12th declaration of the first day of the league. And that is really when we're going to start to see everything go down, all the showdowns. And that's why we're seeing it today, because it's the biggest day of the year.
Yeah, you're right.
Garrett, let's talk about Myles Garrett real quick. It's not on my notes, but Myles Garrett. There's rumors that the Browns really don't want to get rid of him. But do you think he will actually leave by the 2025 season?
Probably. It sucks to say, but yeah, I think we have to. I think we have to get rid of him at this point because we already have little to no leverage, and this just dragging on is decreasing the small leverage that we already have. Uh, so I think that we have to make a move quick, especially if we want to use the draft capital that we're going to get for him in this year's draft. It's got to be made, in the next couple weeks. So we'll see what happens. It sucks, but I guess there's still, a small percent of me that's optimistic because I know that if we were to draft Abdul Carter, that is the route that he wants us to take. So if we were to do that, then maybe, he would potentially think of coming back.
Now, you still want Abdul Carter, even though he may or may not get that surgery.
Yes. Yeah. No, like I said, I tried making it adamant on Sunday that honestly this foot or ankle, whatever it is, injury is not necessarily bothering me, and I don't think it's going to bother any of the teams that are thinking about drafting him either.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's get into some news and notes from around the league. For anyone who doesn't know, if you hear me kind of whispering, that's because I'm in an Airbnb right now. Quiet hours supposed to start at 10 p.m. It is 12 in the morning. I don't know how bad it is on the whispering part, but I'm trying my best to still be so enthusiastic without having to get the door knocked on me. But let's get into it. So first off, Alex Kappa, he got released from the Bengals, and he now is signing with the Raiders on a 2-year, $11 million deal. Honestly, as a Patriots fan, I wanted to see the Patriots go out and go sign him because he looks like he had a Pro Bowl season, and he did very well. To sign someone who did very well this past season for a 2-year, $11 million deal, I think is a great deal for the Raiders. And you can see the Raiders, and I'm not gonna let you speak until after I let these two other Raiders news go out, because the Raiders have continuously they're not stopping. The Raiders, they released Gardner Minshew. Okay, Minshew magic, he's over and done with. But they extended Max Crosby 3 years, $106.5 million, $91.5 million guaranteed. He's the highest paid defensive end player in the NFL. Not only that, I think if I'm correct, he's the highest paid NFL player besides the quarterback position.
Yep, you're exactly right on that. And I mean, that's a huge re-signing for the Raiders. There were obviously rumors a couple weeks ago that he would kind of take a Myles Garrett-like approach. He wanted to talk to the front office, see what their vision was for the future, and pretty much he might request a trade, or they would talk about getting a new contract. And clearly, he likes what the guys are doing in Vegas. I do too. I'll be honest. I think they're building something pretty good over there. So this was a key signing for the Raiders. Good job for them. And in terms of the Kappa news, yeah, no, I completely agree with you. He looked great in Cincinnati, and he was good in Tampa Bay too, Super Bowl champ. He won that year with Brady, so he's been around the league for a little bit now. I think he's in like his fifth or sixth year, so he's definitely pretty much teetering on that veteran line, and he's been good. So great signing for the Raiders.
Very much needed for the Raiders too, because they want to try and keep as much of their star players as possible and keep on adding to their star players, which obviously there's rumors that Aaron Rodgers could go there. Sam Darnold, he's not getting the franchise tag for everyone that knows, which is big news because obviously I predicted that Sam Darnold would go to the Raiders, but there's also rumors that Aaron Rodgers could go there. To me, I feel like Tom Brady has the final say in the quarterback room of that Raiders offense.
Yeah, you're probably right in what direction they want to go to, whether it's maybe even through the draft or through free agency or both. It'll probably come down to what he thinks.
Yeah, exactly. Sam Hubbard, Bengals defensive end, he retires at 29. I think this is a very shocking move for the Bengals and for Sam Hubbard. Obviously, we know that the Bengals defense looked horrendous in the past couple of years, but Sam Hubbard, I thought, was a crucial role to the Bengals, and retiring at such an early age at 29, I think is a very shocking point, and this just means that there's a bigger holes that needs to be filled for the Cincinnati Bengals defense.
Ohio State Buckeyes, so it sucks to see. But yeah, he's always been good for the Bengals defense. One of the lone bright spots that they've had on the defensive front. So yeah, it does suck that he's already retiring. I was shocked. I was in the middle of the class. I think I saw the news come out around probably 11:30 maybe, something like that. So I definitely was shocked when I saw it, and yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, exactly. Eagles, though, former reigning champions, they released two players, Darius Slay, and I can't remember who the other one. I'm guessing you're going to tell me right now.
James Bradbury.
James Bradbury, yes. They now extended two players. Linebacker Zach Bond to a 3-year, $51 million deal, and notably, Saquon Barkley, the running back who they just signed this past season, who helped them lead to a Super Bowl championship. He signed a 2-year, $41.2 million deal. Now he's got $15 million in incentives, which means this guy can make up to $25 million plus a year in his extension, and he becomes now the highest paid running back in the NFL. And this is big news because obviously we talked about James Cook in the past episodes and past shows about how he worth $15 million. And to me, and I think to you as well, he's not worth $15 million a year. I think he's more $10 to $12 million a year. But if he does not get the extension that he wants this offseason and he produces the way he did this past season and helps the Bills, we could see him getting that $15 million a year.
Yeah, to address the Saquon news, great for him, completely deserved. I think, you know, the biggest thing with me and Saquon was I never liked his injury past. However, when he's on the field, he's always been a top three back in the game. And this year, he's been by far the best running back in the league, in my opinion. So good for him. In terms of James Cook, yeah, I mean, I really do like James Cook. And do I think he's worth 15 million? Probably not, but there probably will be a contract structured like that where he makes 15 million or close to it. Um, I would probably agree with you in that 10 to 12 million a year range.
Yeah.
But he seems very, very adamant about wanting 15 million. So will he be a Buffalo Bill in his new contract? Who knows? Because we already talked about this. When's the last time they really paid a good running back? I don't know. So
Yeah, it's been a while since they paid a decent running back. Who, I mean, James Cook, they drafted, and he's
right.
slowly produced into a great offensive running back, which we had Devin Singletary and James Cook. Now it's just James Cook's show. And he produced with just James Cook's show. He's, from what people would say, cooking.
Right.
But for instance, the Bears, let's move on to the Bears. And the Bears, they did some offensively signing players, which they did 2 trades in the past couple of days. Chiefs trade Joe Thuney a guard who has been in the Pro Bowl and the Super Bowl the last 3 seasons. They traded him for a 4th-round pick. Now, the reason for this was he is on his final year on his contract, which just goes to show that obviously a 4th-rounder you would say is a steal for the Bears, which as a Bears fan, which I am not, but as a Bears fan, I would be very happy to have Joe Thuney on my side because he's a Pro Bowler. Now, they also traded for Rams offensive line Jonah Jackson for a 6th-round pick in 2025, which isn't that much given, but this goes to show that Ben Johnson is wanting to help Caleb Williams and produce and be productive of a quarterback and help his offense. And we know how Ben Johnson was with the Lions offense. And I love this from Ben Johnson and Ben Johnson's side. And I hope that Caleb Williams can now bring them to the playoffs.
These are absolutely huge moves for the Bears, in my opinion. You talk about both guys who are former Pro Bowlers. Jonah Jackson. I mean, I can't believe they only had to give up a 6th-rounder. Granted, he was hurt for a majority of last year. I believe he only played 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
So maybe that played a role in it, but still, I mean, he was a Pro Bowler in 2019, probably with the Lions. Or 2021, something like that. A few years ago, he was Pro Bowl with the Lions, and he's always been pretty good. Same thing with Joe Thuney, bounced around from the Patriots to the Chiefs, and now maybe he finds a home in Chicago. I don't know, but he's always been good throughout his career. So I think it's 2 big moves for Ben Johnson and his crew in Chicago. I really like it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think this is a big news for the Bears because we know the Bears have on paper really great offense, but now getting Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson, which Joe Thuney is the bigger name, but obviously just getting the offensive line help that Caleb Williams needs, I think this is a huge part to that offense and trying to show Bears fans that there is hope for this offense and there is a possibility of making the playoffs in this tough division. And personally, I'm excited to see the Bears thrive with Ben Johnson. But again, I mean, that division is going to be really tough.
No, it for sure will be, but I think the biggest thing that I get from this is at least not early. I don't think they're going to address the line in the draft. Maybe later in the draft, but that's lesser of an importance now, right? That they dealt with it in free
Yeah.
agency. So now they don't necessarily have to be looking at the best lineman on the board wherever they're picking 9 or I think something like that. So they still have a relatively high draft pick. And at first, you might have thought, oh, Caleb Williams just got sacked for the 2nd most times in a single season in NFL history. We should get an alignment. Well, now they already addressed that. Let's look forward to other things that we need help with on this team. So, like I said, I have nothing bad to say with these moves. I absolutely love them.
Yeah, I do too. They also have the 10th overall pick in this draft.
That's right. That's what it is.
Some more release news. Jets. Obviously, this is kind of like lower news because we already expected this, but they have officially released Devontae Adams. That's big news. But some bigger news that I want to talk about is Jaguars. They're releasing / cutting Christian Kirk, and Tyler Lockett is being released after 10 seasons with the Seattle Seahawks. These are 2 big wide receivers that we've seen produce in the past, not only for the NFL and their offense, but also in fantasy production. We've seen produce so very highly. And I think this is big news for teams that need wide receivers because we know Christian Kirk's still on the younger side. Tyler Lockett's more on the older side, but these two players have been known to still produce.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly saw this coming for Tyler Lockett, honestly. He's always been a great, solid wide receiver for the Seahawks. Has always been healthy for the most part. And, it sucks. Probably Seahawks fans are sad to see him go because he's been such a long tenured vet for them. But I think they're just trying to move on at this point. They're trying to do something new in Seattle, obviously. So, that's definitely a big move for them, but honestly, one that I saw coming. And to talk about Devontae Adams, I think he's LA bound, one of those teams.
Oh,
We talked about
not
it
not
already.
not Las Vegas bound.
I mean, I could see that too. I could see him going back there. I honestly don't know if the Rodgers, or I don't know if Rodgers is gonna lure him anymore because I saw that Devontae Adams has been heavily lured to just the West Coast, and
Mm,
I think that's completely separate from Aaron Rodgers and that chemistry over there. So definitely something to keep an eye on because he's still insanely talented, although he's getting older. And Christian Kirk, I think we were both fans of him, right? When we thought he
yeah.
was going to be the wide receiver one in Jacksonville. We remember what he did a couple of years ago when he was a wide receiver one. It just didn't end up being that way. And honestly, I'm surprised they cut him, but I guess when you think about it, they're kind of taking a Seahawks approach in the fact that they have a young receiver that maybe they want to turn into the one and just change something up. So we'll see.
Here's my question though. Brian Thomas thrived as the wide receiver two.
Mhm.
Being wide receiver one now, is that going to affect his fantasy production? Because obviously we expected him to be wide receiver two for a while with Christian Kirk's contract. Now the Jaguars are going to eat up that contract. Can Brian Thomas be a wide receiver one on that offense?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I honestly think it's the same with JSN. I don't think it's gonna turn out that way. I don't think he's a wide receiver one. I think he's a slot guy that
Mm,
is great and excels at what he does, but it's not NFL one type play.
mm.
But I could be totally wrong. I hope I am for JSN because I love watching him play. Um, but yeah, we'll have to see with Brian Thomas as well. He's still super young, so he's got a lot, you know, ahead of him. And if he's able to produce in that wide receiver one spot, I mean, the Jags have a star in the making.
Yeah, exactly. And now follow up with with not the Jaguars, but the Seattle Seahawks. DK Metcalf has requested a trade now. Luckily, my team, the Patriots, have looked into him. Can they afford him? I hope so because we overlooked him for N'Keal Harry. So, do you think do you have any best possible landing spots for DK Metcalf? And I think the only correct answer for you is to say the Patriots.
No, not at all. I mean, they'll definitely be probably one of the teams, but I mean, we just saw the Packers already talking about a trade before he had requested it. That'll be a team that's in the mix.
Mhm.
The Chargers, I heard, are the actually front runners right now um, to get him in a trade. So they're up there. I mean, I don't really know. I'm not the biggest fan of DK Metcalf, to be honest with you. So I can't really tell you a
Really?
lot of teams where he. No, no, I'm not. I think he's been overrated his entire career, and the media has just taken it's just taken it by storm. Um, but that's a topic for another day. Where he fits best, I would agree. I think the Patriots are definitely one of the teams. I would probably say the Patriots and Packers are my top two.
I think the Packers, if I was the Packers or even a Packers fan, I would try my hardest to get DK Metcalf because you need a true wide receiver one, and we know DK Metcalf can be a wide receiver one. We've seen him with Tyler Lockett being injured a couple times.
Yeah.
Gary, obviously we wanted to mention Sam Darnold not being franchise tagged. Do you know how much a franchise tag costs per position? So can you give me the worst position to be franchise tagged, like how much they would make? Not how much they would make,
Uh,
but what position would it be?
so on the entire football field, or just offense, or on the entire football field,
Exactly.
I would assume. Oh well, are we excluding punters and kickers, or
No.
no?
Nope.
Okay. Well, then I would throw one of those out there.
Well, which one? You get a 50-50 chance.
Kicker.
You are right. They make on a
Yeah.
franchise tag, they make $6.3 million. Now, the
Mhm.
next one in front of them is a big position that we just
I
talked about.
that we just talked about, really. I would have said safety.
No, they're actually fourth least.
Or okay. So they're still down there. Um, lineman? Offensive lineman?
Actually, no, they are the second
They're high,
most.
right? Yeah, yeah. I would assume. Oh, what did we just talk about? I don't know. I'm not paying attention right now.
This is a position that's so undervalued in the NFL.
Undervalued.
They deserve to be paid more, but their market is
Oh,
so
running
low.
backs.
Yes, $13.6 million in the franchise tag. The next one is an offensive position. It's a position that in fantasy you wouldn't expect to have a whole lot of value on, but we had a lot to talk about on that position this year.
Well, yeah, I would have. I was actually thinking about throwing out tight end for running backs, but
They
I'm assuming
actually
it's
make
here.
they actually make $200,000 more in a franchise tag
Wow.
over running backs. Running backs. You mentioned
Wow.
safety. I'll just mention that now. They make $5 million more, $18.6 million. Now, followed by cornerback with 20.1, defensive end 22, offensive line 23.4. Now, the last four positions. Can you give me can you give me the most? Because this is going to be the easiest.
So this is the easiest. I would assume quarterbacks.
$40.2 million. The next one behind it, the second most, is $15 million difference, and we just mentioned it.
Yeah, I would have thrown out wide receiver. No.
Nope,
Um,
just mentioned it. Just mentioned it.
just mentioned it.
Yeah,
Defensive
because you
tackle.
thought, you thought they were one of the lowest, and I said they were the second
Oh,
highest.
oh, oh, that's right. I don't even remember what I said. I don't even
Line,
remember what I said. Uh,
linebackers, $25.4 million.
did I say linebackers?
You did, you did. You just
Okay.
mentioned though a defensive position that's just behind
Defensive
them.
tackle.
$25.1 million. The fourth most is none other than
Punter.
no, come on, come on, T. Higgins.
Wide receivers.
Yeah, $23.9 million. So the wide receivers are making less than defensive tackles and linebackers in the franchise tag positions.
Hmm.
Isn't that crazy?
That is very crazy. Well, what I'm surprised at is the fact that defensive ends are what, fifth or
Yeah,
sixth?
sixth, sixth.
That's unbelievable, in my opinion. I think that's crazy. Is
I also, I also
Go
have some
ahead.
other
Go ahead.
news.
Sorry.
I also have some
Yep.
other news with this, but I also agree with that. Is it because Miles Garrett?
No, 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 not at all. But I personally think that on a football field, outside of the quarterback, I think the defensive end is the most important position in football.
Mhm.
So
What about DTs? You
I would
think
argue
DTs
that
can move to DE?
I would argue that defensive ends play more of a role.
Ooh. Yeah, because I could also see that, and that's the reason why is because the blind side of the quarterback.
The blind side, and I mean they're expected to be more agile and athletic because they're the guys that are, getting or disrupting screen plays and pitch plays to running backs and guys that have to actually go after the quarterback. D tackles aren't necessarily the guys that are always going to get to the quarterback. So
Very true on that. Moving on to one last thing that I just found out. This is breaking news. Actually, breaking news from a while ago, or like a few hours ago, but I didn't know of it, and I don't know if you know of it because it's kind of went under the radar. We have a certain wide receiver that retired, and then none other than a slot receiver who we have known to thrive very well in fantasy a couple times. Hunter Renfro
no.
has
Oh wow.
retired from the NFL.
Wow. That is sad. That is sad because I always thought that he was pretty much a carbon copy of Cooper Cup, just slightly worse. No, not slightly, but worse. Um, he was always one of the great route runners in the league. Uh, Industrialized the whip route, so that's you know salute to him on that. I'm surprised that he didn't play on the Raiders just randomly because
Yeah.
I mean you said it, he flourished sometimes, so that's surprising. But yeah,
It's really sad because he was a very solid wide receiver when it comes to slot.
yeah,
And I just don't think he was in the offense that allowed him to thrive the way he should have.
yeah, I agree.
Gary, you got any more news and notes?
Not that I can think of.
Is it time to get down to our biggest part of the segment? It's the NFL mock draft. How many of these are we on?
Number 3.
Number 3, 3.0, first round NFL mock draft. This is post combine. Obviously, we saw a couple post combine stuff, but I don't think it's not only the post combine now. With today's news that's gone out, we have seen a lot of stories, lines, and a lot of players being released. That's going to shake up this first round. And I'm excited for it. Are you excited for it? Is the question.
Of course, always.
You can never go wrong with some Makalaka Draftathon shows. By the way, this is the 49th episode of season number 5.
Is it? Yes, it is, actually, yeah.
Season
Right.
number 6 comes out next week, but it comes out after the 50th episode. This is the most episodes we've ever done in a season. 50 episodes coming out again today, Wednesday. Last show of the season is next Sunday, and that is going to be an exciting one.
It is.
All right, we got ourselves the Makalakathon. Gary, we did every other. Now, you had the number 1 overall pick last time. You don't deserve the number 1 overall pick this time.
No, I don't.
I'm getting it this time. I'm getting
Okay.
it this time. We did AFC, NFC in our 1.0. Gary had the first overall pick, and we did every other. This time, we're flipping it around. We're going to get every other, but I am going to take the odd numbers. Gary is going to take the even numbers. So unfortunately, Gary has to deal with my Patriots, but he also gets his Browns.
So,
Now, Tennessee Titans are on the clock. And should we just start shaking things up? Abdul Carter is the number 1 off the board.
awesome. I just wish I could see the draft board.
Can you not see the draft board?
No.
Why can't
Unfortunately
you?
not. I don't know. For me, it's just showing 2 white squares.
2 white squares.
Mm-hmm.
It's showing live. Can you see it now?
Nope.
What?
Can't.
Whoever's watching, can you comment if you can see the screen? Because if you can, it's just a Gary malfunction.
It's fine. Just what website are you using? PFF? Because I'll just input it myself.
Yeah. I am using PFF.
Okay. Gotcha.
I've been sent a screenshot that also they can only see those 2 white boxes.
Yeah. Okay. I knew it wasn't just me.
But I don't understand because it showed on my screen. Okay, Gary, can you see it now?
Yes. There you go.
Okay. I don't know why. It must have been just a glitch that we saw because on my screen it showed that it was live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyways, you're on the clock here with your Browns, your Cleveland Trash Browns. What are we doing here?
Man. I mean, I guess it comes down to what would the Browns do, not necessarily what I would do. I guess they would go after that quarterback position and draft Cam Ward.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
I am.
It's terrible.
Is it?
That's an F pick right there. F pick. Okay. Giants are on the clock here. Now, in this draft, we're going to shake things up as much as we can.
Let's go.
I'm expecting them to sign a future quarterback. Now, whether or not it's a bridge quarterback for their future prospect that they're going to draft, they're not going to draft with the number 3 overall pick a quarterback. They're going to draft a team, a player that can help protect the quarterback. Give me Will Campbell.
Okay. So I see you want to have some fun with this draft. I think I
Oh,
also
we're
want
going
to
to
have
have
some fun
so
with this
much
draft.
fun.
Are we?
Oh, we're going to have as much fun as we
'Cause
can.
I don't even know if you would predict who's going here for.
Oh, no. Is it Ashton Ginty?
It is. It is Ashton GT.
No, no.
Yes. Goes number 4 to the Patriots. Great pick.
Oh,
Great
no.
pick, draft.
I take it all back. I don't want a crazy draft.
It's awesome. Awesome start.
You know what? I love Ashton Jeanty, and I do hope he goes to the Patriots. I just hope it's not to number 4. I hope if we do get him, we trade back down because I think we can still get him later on in the draft.
Yeah, I think it's possible.
Jaguars are on the clock. Brian Thomas was the number 1 wide receiver off the board for the Jaguars last season in the first round. Do they go for another wide receiver here? The answer is unfortunately not. I think they will look for a wide receiver, a veteran wide receiver in the offseason, whether or not they trade for someone or not. I think they're going to take the best available. They need defense. They used to have such a solid defense. Give me Travis Hunter.
Yeah, and I mean, I was not going to let him fall past the Raiders, so that's where he would have gone for me too. So that leaves the Raiders kind of in a tough position because do they get a quarterback through free agency? If they do, does it come with Devontae Adams? We don't know. So I guess if they were in this spot, I think they're going to take the best player that's still on the board, in my opinion, that also fits what they need in Tyrell McMillan.
That's a good pick. That's a good pick there. Now, Jets are on the clock here. Their number 1 overall position need is quarterback. But maybe we'll see J.J. McCarthy go there and thrive very well.
Let's go.
I think they're going to go defensively. I mean, they've always had a solid defense, and with Aaron Glenn being now the head coach, I think they're going to stay defensively minded because we know that Aaron Glenn can produce a high level of defense. And with Sauce Gardner there, you already have a great secondary. Now, what about your line? Go take the lineman that is available to you at number 7, and that's Mason Graham from Michigan.
I like it. I think that if they were in that same spot and they would do the same thing. So great pick there. Now I'm sitting here with the Panthers, and I'll be honest. I mean, the offense really isn't that terrible. If
it's bad.
It's bad. It is bad. But if Bryce Young is going to play all season like he did to finish the season last year, it's definitely not my priority. Right now, it's all on the defense because their defense is absolutely atrocious. They have a lot of directions they could go here. They could go with the Thorpe Award winner for the best cornerback in the nation in Jahdae Barron. They could grab a freak athlete in Malachi Starks from Georgia. Or they could address the edge need with James Pierce Jr. I think they would draft probably the best defensive player on the board right now, in my opinion, in Jahdae Barron.
Jahdae Barron. Okay, I could see that.
I mean, him and J.C. Horn would just be 2 lockdown corners. So,
well, I'd agree with that. And I think J.C. Horn, if he can take that next step next season, I think we can see him very well produce. And with J.D. Barron on the other side, that's looking like a locked up defense in the defensive back category for the Panthers. Saints, they got draft capital problems. They got wide receiver problems. They got tight end problems. They can't pay Juwan Johnson. They can barely pay Chris Olave, who's coming off the injury. Is Michael Thomas even there? No, he's a free agent, I believe, right? Correct?
I mean, he hasn't been on the team like 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. So can we just go with the defensive side of things because they're going to need defensive help. and we're going to go all the way down. This might be a reach, but again, the drafts become wild. The 9th overall pick goes to a defensive lineman, Kenneth Grant from Michigan.
Hey, wow. If I told you
We
which
said
direction,
we're getting crazy.
if
We're getting
I
crazy
told
tonight.
you which direction I was going to go in with the Saints, you might have threw me off the show. So I won't even do that. All right, now the Bears are on the clock, and
What do they need? What do they need? Because it ain't offense.
that's a great question. On paper, they're just such a good, complete team that like I really don't know where I would go here. Obviously, you can see that their needs are center and guard. I don't think I'm gonna go after that, especially considering the fact that they just pretty much did that. Um, Tyler Warren, I don't think would make sense here. I think they're gonna go after the best edge rusher in this draft because, in my opinion, that's one of the critical positions that they could go after right now. And I think they would select a player that is rumored to go number 1 overall around this time last year in early mock drafts in Jane Pierce Jr.
Ooh, that's a solid pick. I think that's a big pick for the Bears because they have the offense they needed. They have to go defense here, and this is a good edge rusher from Tennessee.
Hmm.
San Francisco. San Francisco's on the clock. They got a lot of question marks. Guess what? You want to take a guess of what they're going to draft here?
What are they going to draft?
Take a guess. Offense or defense?
I would assume offense.
Are you sure about that?
Probably not.
Okay, well, I was just trying to get you to second guess yourself. Yeah, Luther Burthen is going to be picked here at number 11. At number 11. They're going to trade away Brandon Ayuk before this draft, and they're going to take a number 1 first round overall pick. Well, not overall pick, but first round pick in a wide receiver, and that's Luther Burthen.
Yeah, you guys heard it here first. I definitely wasn't expecting that one.
Imagine we can go back, rewind the tape, and just go back to the draft in April and go back to this one. Imagine a wide receiver is picked at number 11.
Yeah, no, that would definitely be crazy. Now the Cowboys are on the clock, and you know, if they didn't just sign Odigizua, I probably would have gone the best defensive lineman right now. But I think they are really in dire need of offensive line help. And we're looking at a guy who is rapidly rising in this draft due to his combine, which I don't love to look at. But I believe he ran the quickest in the lineman category. He had the fastest 40. So Armand Membu finds himself being a Dallas Cowboy. You already went past him.
I already went past him. I knew I did. Where is he?
Right there.
Where is he? Oh, from Missouri.
There you go.
My goodness. I don't know why I passed by him. That's a solid pick, honestly, because they need to protect Dak Prescott. That's the biggest problem. And I think if Ashton JT was on the board still, I think this is where we see him go. And I think this is the farthest we're going to see JT go, in my opinion.
You know, I did see the Cowboys were not interested in drafting a running back this high. So, yeah.
Onion Mammoth, who's winning the draft tonight with best picks predictions? Well, Onion, we already know who it is. It's the odd number teams. We already know.
Exactly.
Shout out to Onion, though. Onion's excited, though, about, I think, the Cowboys pick over here with Armand. But Dolphins are on the clock here. And I think they have to protect Tua. That is the biggest question mark that we've had in the last few years with Tua. And I think you go and get a little Buckeye, and I don't think you can complain about it, in going for Josh Simmons.
Love it. Now, this pick just falls perfectly into line. The Colts need a tight end, and this guy might be one of the best tight end prospects we've seen in the past couple of years. Tyler Warren finds himself in Indianapolis. He's got the hair of a Midwestern folk, so he finds his way to a Midwestern team.
You said Tyler Warren, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This is by far the best pick, I think, for the tight end position. I
It's just the
think
most obvious.
it is. It is the most obvious, which means if it is the most obvious, we know it's not going to happen.
Right.
Let's be real. Let's be real. We're back on the clock with the Falcons. I want them to go for a wide receiver here because that is their top need, even though they don't need a wide receiver with Drake London on the board, Kyle Pitts on that team. But I think they're going to go for a defensive player. And this is a defensive player who I think has fallen a little bit. And I think it's going to end up being a great pick there for Atlanta because you know what? You keep the player who did his college career in Atlanta and you keep Mikael Williams and you draft him.
Yeah.
Edge
I
rusher.
mean, honestly, I think that's a great pick. I probably would have done the exact same thing if I was in your scenario. So good job.
Why doesn't it just scream like a Atlanta Falcons pick?
Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. And that's probably their biggest need right now. So I like it. Now, for the Cardinals, obviously they need to protect their gnome of a quarterback. Um, Besides that, I guess I could use some defensive help. I think they would take Mike Green in this case.
I don't mind Mike Green on this pick. I think you could talk about their offense and how they struggled a little bit, but I think Mike Green is a solid pick here. Bengals are on the clock. I would say they could go wide receiver, but there is no need for it. They just signed T. Higgins, or at least plan on signing franchise tagging T. Higgins. So they have to go defense, and I think they're going to take another defensive lineman. You could mention Derek Harmon, who right now is ranked the highest on defensive line, but I think it's going to be Walter Nolan out of Mississippi.
That's a great pick, but I'm bigger on Shamar Stewart, who I have going right here to the Seahawks, who I think is rapidly rising, and for great reason. I think he is a beast. So Seahawks address that problem.
I thought you were going to take a wide receiver here with DK Metcalf on the move.
Nope.
Okay. Well, I think you go with the best player for the linebackers available here for the Buccaneers, and you take the linebacker Jaheed Campbell. I think Jaheed Campbell's a solid choice for the Buccaneers. They need defensive help. Yeah, they might lose Chris Godwin, but they have Jaleel McMillan behind them as a new wide receiver too, and I think they need to help that defense.
Love it. Man, I can't believe Will Johnson is still sitting here.
I know, right? I was thinking of taking him there for the Buckeyes, but I said, nah, I can't.
I mean, he is an absolute beast, and to be honest with you, he probably would have gone much earlier in this draft. But I don't have him going here to the Broncos. As a matter of fact, I think this is actually where his defensive back counterpart, Malachi Starks, is going to go.
Good pick.
Justin Simmons hit free agency, so they obviously have to address that need now. And to be honest with you, if they're able to keep that Broncos defense, that's usually pretty good, rejuvenated, then I think that they're going to be a great front yet again.
Can I just say, who's your prediction for the Steelers for quarterback? Who is the starting quarterback?
Fields.
Okay. Well, I think they're going to go wide receiver here in Emeka Egbuka.
Awesome. Probably will happen. All right. So now the Chargers are on the clock, and they definitely have a lot to address. I guess a lot of their guys are free agents because by the looks of what their needs are. I don't know. I mean, J.K. Dobbins, yeah, he's a free agent, but I think he's going to sign back. Wide receiver, I don't think it's that much of a need. I think they're going to get someone in free agency, whether it's Devontae Adams or Keenan Allen. Tight end, I also don't think it's that big of an issue. The edge, yeah, I think Khalil Mack is a free agent if I'm incorrect on that. I apologize. So I think they need to go the best defensive lineman available. And I would say at the moment that is Derek Harmon. And I think Fernando is having some technical difficulties, which this is a great time to have with only 9 minutes left in our show. Yes, that's exactly right. He is.
Don't you worry.
There he
We're
is.
back.
He's
We're
back.
back. We're
He's
back.
back.
I can still hear you in my headphones. You said Derek Harmon.
I did.
I think this is a good pick for the Chargers. You could mention maybe they do go for wide receiver, but the issue is they do go sign Keenan Allen at the wide receiver position. I don't think they need to really go for the wide receiver position, at least not in the first round. So I think
Right.
they do tackle the defensive side of things, and Derek Harmon, I think, is a solid pick.
hmm
I think Green Bay. You can talk all about Green Bay. You talk about how they need a wide receiver one. I think if you see a position or a player drop this far, then you have to take them. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I assume I do.
It's Will Johnson.
Oh, and you just sniped the Vikings, who were going to do the exact same thing. Oh, man, that sucks. Okay. Well, there is talk about potentially the Vikings drafting a running back here, which would be cool to see. Do I think they do it?
Yes, go for it.
Yes. Omarion Hampton is
Yes.
going to Minnesota.
Yes. I like that pick. Unfortunately, I wanted Mika Ibuka, and I think you and I both want him to go to Houston here. I just, unfortunately, it just ends up not being the case. It just ends up not being the case here. I think they could address the wide receiver position. They could address the offensive line position. Now, I can't tell you if Kelvin Banks has, or if the offensive line for the Texans can switch around the positions, but I think Kelvin Banks is a guy that they need to get because he is a solid offensive lineman. And I think if you can get an offensive lineman that is this good, that can drop to you, I think you have to go take him in Kelvin Banks.
Sniped me again. That's awesome. Yeah, no.
You already know what time it is. It's the sniper show.
Was no other direction I was going to go for the Rams, and honestly, I don't think I'm going to change up from that. I'm going to go with Gray's.
We have breaking news.
What's it?
An inside source says, Harbaugh, please pay Khalil Mack. This is
really
from a former roommate. Roommate of mine, DJ. He's talking about Khalil Mack should get paid, and I hope he does get paid because I think this would be huge for the Chargers.
I saw that he's open to a reunion with the Bears.
I mean, at this point, the way the Bears look like, I would too.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't know if you heard what I said, but I'm still gonna ride the wave of my tackle trend for the Rams because that offensive line is beaten up. I'm gonna go with Gray Zabel.
Yeah, I thought that's what I heard, right? Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's not a bad pick. You have to address the offensive need in the offensive line, and I think this is a good pick for them. Baltimore, I want to actually take a guy who has risen in the past, but overall in the ranks has dropped a lot. And I think he's starting to rise a lot. And he fell into the second round. Now he's coming back into late first round. I think this would be a perfect pick for the Baltimore Ravens. It's a guy from BC, right down the street from us, Gary. Donovan Eziraku?
Yeah, I would have done the exact same thing. I love it. So good pick there. Now the Lions are on the clock, and man, I would just love to give them Jack Sawyer, right? But I'm not going to do that. What I do like is the fact that this guy is still here because I think he's an absolute stud, and I think he actually has a potential to even go top 12 to 15 range. Linebacker from Georgia, Jalen Walker.
That's a good one. Honestly, it's a snipe from the Eagles because I think the Eagles would have taken him if he fell.
Oh, of course.
Washington's on the clock. Now, I do have Washington taking Zach Ertz and keeping Zach Ertz on the team, but Zach Ertz is getting old, and I think you go with a guy who we've seen be very good in the past in college, right down a couple states away, Colson Loveland.
That's cool. I like that, I guess.
I don't think
The,
anyone would ever expect that to go there.
no, I wouldn't either. All right, so the Bills are on the clock, and this seems like such an obvious pick to me, so I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you Matthew Golden from
Oh my
Texas.
God, I loved it. I love that pick. I
I mean,
actually love it.
I think they need to address wide receiver. Obviously, Amari Cooper wasn't doing much when he was there, but he's testing free agency, so they don't have him anymore. And the wide receiver, you know, issue is always going to linger, considering the fact that Diggs just left last season. So,
I mean, I think you can't go wrong with it, especially with the whole Amari Cooper situation not working out. Cam Coleman, could he be a thing? Could he not be a thing? Is he a first overall wide receiver on that offense? I don't think so. Matthew Golden, we saw rise a little bit with his stock based on his combine, which is the whole reason why we're having this mock draft. So I like it. Matthew Golden ends up actually falling after the combine, which is shocking to me. Let's talk about the Chiefs, though. You could just get rid of your offensive guard, Joe Thuney. Is that meaning you're going to go for an inside offensive lineman, Tyler Booker? Or are you going to take another position? Unfortunately, I think that they see something that we don't see yet. And it's a guy that you always go into the second round for to get that fifth-year option, and that is Tyler Booker. And I think that's why they dropped him here.
no, he's actually a Connecticut native. My one of my friends here at school went to high school with him, played football with him together. So pretty
Really?
cool. Yeah, thing I didn't know.
That is pretty cool.
Um, Now the Eagles are on the clock, and man, they need absolutely nothing. But I'm gonna give Nick Scorton, a guy that I think is such a stud, very underrated at Texas A&M, and the rich get richer because, man, the Eagles, they look like they need nothing. But
I like the pick, but before I draft him to end off the show, there's one player that was not drafted in the first
mhm,
round that I don't think we realized, or maybe you did realize, but I just realized. But that's
did
because I didn't have
realize.
the picks. Okay, I didn't have the picks that I wanted to be able to draft him.
I did realize.
Oh, okay. Okay, well,
Don't
Nick
you worry.
Scotten goes 32. The player that we've been talking about going top 5, top 10 is none other than Shador Sanders. He is outside the first round of
You
these
know,
picks.
I don't think it'll happen. It won't happen, but so many like media outlets are saying that like nobody likes him. He might fall out of the first round. I think at the very least, a team will trade up into the first round to draft him later on, to give him that fifth year option. Of course, we aren't able to do trades in this. But no, I did notice about a little bit halfway through that we just weren't going to have a spot for him.
I thought if there was a spot for him, it would be for the Rams.
Guess. I mean, the Steelers, I don't think is a bad shout either because at the moment they don't have a quarterback. So
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. Yeah, but to think that Shador Sanders falling out of the top 32, pretty
mhm,
wild.
it is.
Pretty wild. Gary, what a show this was! Because
It was
this was
fun.
a mock draft that was completely different than any of our other mock drafts we've done before.
Yeah, no, it was. We decided to change a lot of things up, and it was fun, honestly. Ashton GT going 4. Man, I hope it happens. You guys would love that pick, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I would personally love it if we can get rid of Ramondre Stevenson.
You think so? I know a lot of Patriots fans feel like they want a new running back, although I've always been a big fan of Ramondre. So,
I've been a big fan of Ramondre. I think he's just not in the right offense, and it's just not our
mhm,
offense that he needs to be a part of. I think he can thrive in any other offense besides ours.
I certainly agree with you.
But I love Ashton Jeanty. Would love to have him on my team. But I think this is also a big question mark for the Patriots because they could go any position really, because they
Yeah,
need every position.
for sure.
Um, well, that's gonna do it in this week's show. It's the NFL Mock Draft 3.0. We've done 3 mock drafts, and we are not stopping. We're going to do more mock drafts until this actual NFL mock draft, but it will be next show. Next show, we're going to talk about the 2026 free agency market. Free agency hasn't even started in 2025. Well, guess what?
Wow.
We're going to talk about it in 2026 for Sunday's show. You already hear it. We're here every single Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time and on Sundays at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. So next show, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Be there or be square or be circle, whatever you want to be. But anyways, that's going to do it here. As you're my great co-host, Gary. Go follow him all over social media at GD Picks. I'm Fernando. I'm your host, SportsTime HQ, and we will see you all on Sunday. Be sure to use code SportsTime HQ on Underdog Fantasy. They're going to match your first deposit on Underdog Fantasy up to $1,000. And again, TrophySmack.com/SportsTimeHQ. Go get your a trophy, ring, or a belt. Again, I'm Fernando. I'm your host, SportsTime HQ, and we're going to see you all next Sunday.
Uncle Schmeggy.
Let's go.